This month's theme is The Princess Bride.
Yay!
The Princess Bride was a 1987 American fantasy adventure comedy film, directed and co-produced by Rob Reiner, starring Cary Elwes, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Chris Sarandon, Wallace Shawn, Andre the Giant, and Christopher Guest. Adapted by William Goldman from his 1973 novel of the same name, it tells the story of a swashbuckling farmhand named Wesley, accompanied by strange companions befriended along the way, who must rescue his true love, Princess Buttercup, from the odious Prince Humperdinck. The film preserves the novel's metafictional narrative style by presenting the story as a book being read by a grandfather to his sick grandson. Remember Peter Falk and Fred Savage? The film was first released in September of 1987 and was well received by the critics, but it was modestly successful at the box office at first, and then over time became a cult film and is considered one of the best films of the 1980s. I love particularly the stories about making the film. Reiner rented a house in England near the location sites and frequently invited the cast over for meals and lighthearted get-togethers. Cast members believe this helped to create a sense of family and helped to improve their performances. I'm sure this was true. I like to feed my actors all the time. Cary Elwes and Mandy Patinkin learned to fence both left and right-handed for the film and performed these scenes themselves outside of the two somersaults, which were performed by stunt doubles. They were trained by fencing instructors Bob Anderson and stunt arranger Peter Diamond, both of whom had also worked on training actors in Star Wars. Elwes and Patinkin spent about 3 weeks prior to filming learning to fence and spent most of their off-camera free time practicing. Gee. There's so many more wonderful things to do. Anderson encouraged the two to learn the others' choreography for the fight to help them anticipate the movements and avoid an accident. They also watched sword fights from previous films so they could improve on them. Andre the Giant had undergone major back surgery prior to filming, and despite his great size and strength, could not support the weight of Elwes during their fight scene or Wright for a scene at the end of the film. For the wrestling scene, when Elwes hangs on Andre's back, he was actually walking on a series of ramps below the camera during close-ups. For the wide shots, a stunt double took the place of Andre. Now, where did they get a stunt double? When he was apparently carrying Wright, she was actually suspended by cables. Billy Crystal and Carol Kane spent time before traveling to England to work out the backstory between Miracle Max and his wife and develop a rapport for their characters. Once on set, Reiner allowed them to improvise much of the dialogue, probably when Goldman wasn't there. Perhaps the main theme of The Princess Bride is the power of true love is stronger than anything. If you read my bio, you'll remember that my daughter Megan is my favorite human on the planet. I'm sure if and when I visit another planet, she'll still be my favorite. For me, the story of The Princess Bride reminds me of The Wizard of Oz, which is probably my favorite fairy tale. I often think of myself as Dorothy, always trying to get home. However, in my story, the bad witches are usually men. Beginning with my father, followed by many likenesses of him. Like my dad, my princes have been charismatic, my first husband, alcoholic, my second husband, and unavailable, almost my third husband. I, like Dorothy and Wesley, have had an interesting lot of companions along the way. My best friend Ludi, since doing children's theater in my 20s, reminds me that I do have a brain and a heart. She's my scarecrow and Tin Man. Courage I get from being the mother of my favorite human. I still remember the moment of her birth, one of giving and receiving at the same time. Holding her, I knew that my life would never be the same. Sure, every parent says that, and they're right, because you don't sleep for months, you forget how to talk to adults, but this was different. 10 years after her birth and years of therapy, I realized I had to leave her father, my second husband, the alcoholic. I talked about it session after session. I remember the therapist saying, one day you will wake up and it will be the day and you will know how to do it. Then one night, 10-year-old Megan said, I think it's sad that you and Daddy don't sleep in the same room anymore. The next morning I woke and knew that I might not be able to leave for me, but I had to leave for her. I vowed that she would not have the same inheritance I had had. That afternoon I told him that I was leaving with Megan. I agreed to couples therapy. My condition was that it was to sever, not repair, the relationship. It was amicable for the sake of Megan. That much we both had, that much love we both had for her. It was the hardest and bravest decision I have ever made. In that first moment of holding her, I knew that my life would never be the same because I was home. We have a great lineup for you tonight.